Hi, I'm Mike Sokol from RV Electricity, and I'm happy to join Eric and Tammy for their Techno RV Virtual RV Rally. Part two here, I'm going to be covering surge protectors and how they work, what they do, and the different variations of them. So let's get started. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what surge protectors are. Well, first off, they come in all shapes and sizes. They're related to the little baby ones that you might have, surge strips that you get in your wall, but really, those little ones just aren't big enough to do your RV, so they have bigger versions. So you need a large surge protector that will protect your entire electrical system. So first off, let's define what the word surge is. Actually, it's more of a voltage spike than a surge. Surge is a word that everybody uses, though, but they're really these short duration pulses, these overvoltage events that can measure between 200 to 2,000 volts or more. The duration of the spike can be very short. It can be a few milliseconds for a nearby lightning event, up to a second or more for high voltage line faults, like when the power lines fall across each other and have got to clear circuit breakers. So you can see in this picture, this voltage spike is in fact this really, really high peak. You can see down on the bottom, it's kind of moving along at its normal rate of 120 volts AC, and there can be a spike that can be a couple of thousand volts. That's the stuff that sneaks on into all your electronics and does so much damage. So basically, we have something that's called a MOV device, MOV, that we use to help clamp that. And if you were to tear one of these apart, which I can't tell any of you to tear them apart, but I do, you'd see like these little discs, and they're about the size of a fat nickel. And their job is to go ahead and absorb these peaks. They're rated in joules of power, and a joule is essentially 1 watt of power for 1 second. And they just keep stacking more and more of these inside of a surge protector. So basically, the more joules that you have, the more protection you have, because this is a sacrificial element. They start dying. So every time a MOV is hit with a voltage spike, it dies a little more. And after enough of them, they wear out and they can't offer you any more protection. Many quality surge protectors will have a little indicator light that'll be on that it'll tell you when it's still offering protection. But after years of abuse, they're going to probably at some point give up. And then these MOVs need to be replaced when they die, or depending on the model of surge protector you have, the whole thing needs to be replaced. So this joule thing, and it's pronounced joule like, joules. It's 1 watt of power for 1 second. And the MOV device can only absorb a total amount. So if you have 350 joules, it can either that it's rated for, it can either absorb a 350 joule hit one time, or it can do 35 joule hits 10 times, or it can do a single joule hit 350 times. Most of the time we stack them up, so a lot of these surge protectors will have in excess of 2,000 joules of protection, and that should be good for many, many years at normal events. Of course, if you have one great big lightning strike, you're liable to take out all of your joules at once, but again, if it's protected your RV, so much the better. And there's a few other wiring dangers that we get into in campgrounds. One is open ground connections, that is your equipment grounding conductor, which can cause a hot skin voltage on your RV chassis. In fact, we just did a previous little webinar here that described how to test for that. But an advanced surge protector, what we call total electrical protection, can in fact discover that and help shut it down. Low voltage, when it gets below 100 volts or so, can damage refrigerators and air conditioner compressors. High voltage, anywhere from 130 to 240 volts, can damage all kinds of electrical systems in your RV. So let's go over the two basic types of surge protectors. I actually have both kinds here. This is what we call a total electrical protection unit. And over here would be kind of a a basic surge protector. You can see comparatively the size of these two things. This one's about 4 times the size of these little guys. But let me show you a little bit more how they work. So the basic one only has a series of MOVs in it. And they can't defend your RV from over voltage or under voltage or open grounds. But in fact, they do a great job of getting rid of voltage spikes. These are these little events that come in, as we discussed, from a lightning strike or something like that. However, these devices cannot protect you from over voltages. If the power line just goes up to 200 volts, they can't do a thing. They just keep pushing it through. Advanced surge protectors, okay, and the advanced ones are like these larger ones over here. They have relays inside of them. Those, what their job is to do is to go ahead and protect you against, all these other things. So they will disconnect you from over voltage, under voltage, open ground conditions. Some of the more advanced ones from SurgeGuard actually do what we call downstream or load side open neutral protection. And I'm going to do an article video later just on that. And they also include those MOV-based voltage spike protections like all the basic units have. Same thing, but just more things. Many of the basic ones will have warning lights to indicate proper outlet polarity in open grounds. And they're smaller than the advanced total electrical protection ones because they don't have a relay to disconnect you from the shore power. Advanced surge protectors, sometimes called EMS by some manufacturers, called total electrical protection from SurgeGuard, they have not only surge protection, but over voltage, under voltage, and all kinds of other things. And they're bigger because they've got relays and computers and all kinds of stuff in them. So I'm going to show you a little live demonstration of how this works using my really fun little processing unit that I built over here. It's basically a 50 amp 50 amp pedestal that I can vary the voltage up and down and do whatever I want with. So let's just show you a little bit how that works. Okay, so right here is our advanced unit, and over here is our basic unit. And I've got monitors on each one. So you can see that this little voltage monitor is looking at the output of this. And this voltage monitor down here is looking at the output of that. And I can vary the voltage up and down on them. The voltage is a little bit different because I'm on 2 different sides of the line. That's just very, very common. So you can see what happens. I do have another camera here. You can see the advanced one is monitoring all of these things for you. And it also has the ability to go ahead, if you were to get one of these, you can get, I don't have this all hooked up right now, but it's actually looking at this. This is a little remote box that you can purchase separately. You can put inside of your RV and it'll show you volts, amps. It'll blink at you if something goes wrong. So as long as my voltage is going up, my voltage is going down. Let's go back and look at the big picture. And you can see that everything's kind of tracking up and down. Everybody's happy. It's doing okay. But what happens if our voltage starts getting down low, be slow about 104 volts? You can see that I've got a blinking light here. It says caution when flashing. And this timed out. It said, I'm only going to let that go for a few seconds. It says caution when flashing. So what it means is our voltage is too low. It is not happy at all, and it has shut your RV off. Now, if I bring the voltage back up, you can see I now have basically 128-second countdown. And what it's doing is it's now waiting for the air compressor itself, or excuse me, the compressor in your air conditioner to bleed down its pressure so it doesn't have a locked rotor startup. So it'll take its little time and it'll do its thing. While we're doing that, let me show you what's going on with this other one. Even though the big one has shut us down, here's the the real the little basic ones, and this is not endemic to just Surge Guard. This is everybody's out there. I can take the voltage down to anything I want coming into it, and guess what it does? It just happily passes it along right into your RV. Okay? And worse than that, if our voltage goes up, these little basic ones, they don't have any way to disconnect you. I can run anything that I want. I can put 130, 140 volts into it. I can put more than that. It will just pass it through. So these basic ones really can't do anything to disconnect you from that. Only these larger units can do it. The other thing that I should show you that's really, really interesting, if we were to power this down for just a minute, and look at it a little bit closer, you can see that they have an 8-second startup. First time you plug it in, this will go for 8 seconds, and then it'll decide whether it likes the voltage or not. And if it does, it'll go flick. And now you see it's got 115 volts that it's passed through. Whereas if we go back and look at our little basic one, when we turn it on the first time, it'll just come up immediately to any voltage. It doesn't care. What's the difference between these two units? Well, the advanced ones are more on the order of $300 or so, depending on whether you're getting a 30 or a 50 amp unit. The basic ones are on the order of $75 to $100. SurgeGuard calls this a TEP, or Total Electrical Protection. Some of the other manufacturers call them EMS, for Electrical Management System. And everybody just calls these basic surge protectors. They're really like a little 3-light tester. They're basically this kind of little guy right here built into a surge strip. You can run 2 at a time if you want to. In fact, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do is put the more expensive one, or the ones inside of their RVs, that do all of the voltage monitoring and everything else, and then put an inexpensive one out on the pole, out on the pedestal. That way, if it gets smacked with lightning, it's going to blow this little one up first. And then that'll help sacrifice itself so it won't take out the more expensive unit. Okay, I think that's about it for today. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. I've got a couple more of these virtual seminars that I'm doing for your virtual rally, and I hope to see you live on the road sometime. But until then, I'm Mike Sokol for RV Electricity, and let's play safe out there.